Hi everybody and welcome back to the channel, and if you're new, you're really welcome. I'm Jane and my husband Michael is behind the camera. We are British, early retirees, debt and mortgage free, and living a thrifty, frugal and money saving life on a super tight budget here in Brittany in northwest France. And every Wednesday we open our home and invite you in for a midweek money chat. We've got a tough old topic to talk about today, so get yourself a cup of tea, get yourself comfortable, and let's get on with it. On our Facebook group and in our community page here on our YouTube channel, we ask people, what frugal money saving skill do you struggle with? And there were lots and lots of very similar struggles, and they all amounted to difficulties with sticking to a budget. They all amounted to sticking to the food budget, sticking to the gift budget, sticking to the clothing budget, and so on, or not having a budget at all, or spending when they should be saving. So this week is a bit of a tough talk, and it's going to be, I don't normally give advice, but I'm going to do so this week. And also, as I always say in these videos, I do like to be reflective. I am absolutely aware that people spend for a whole variety of reasons. They spend because they're bored. They spend because they're lonely. They spend because they're insecure or they don't feel good about themselves. They're insecure about having enough of whatever it is, from clothing for the kids, food in the house. All of those things can cause us to spend. But we're going to talk about those reasons throughout the conversation today. We're going to break it down. Let's get going. A reoccurring money-saving frugal skill that came up on the list that people said they struggled with was meal planning. For a whole load of reasons. They weren't in the mood, they didn't fancy it, they felt it constrained them, that they never knew what they wanted to have, and so on and so forth. A meal plan does not have to be complicated. We just need to look in our fridge or look in our cupboards and think of the simplest things. And these days, putting food on the table doesn't always mean cooking something from scratch. You could simply have a couple of fried eggs, oven chips and some baked beans and call that a meal. You could have a toasted sandwich with cheese and ham in it and a tin of soup and call it a meal. So planning things around the simplest things. You could open a frozen pizza and have that with a bag of salad and call that a meal. Meal planning doesn't have to be difficult, it doesn't have to be complicated, it just has to form what you're going to spend your money on. So you don't think halfway through the day, I haven't got a clue what I'm going to do for dinner, I'm going to call in and pick up a takeaway on the way home. It just means that you've got a list of things on a notepad, on a blackboard, on just a piece of paper stuck on your fridge with a suggestion of maybe 10 to 14 meals that you can rustle up throughout the next few days. It doesn't have to be difficult, but here's the but, there's always a but. If you want to save money and meal planning is getting in the way, and you know it's getting in the way, find a way to overcome it. Find any way to overcome that difficulty. Food is so extraordinarily expensive, and it's just one of those things of adult life, isn't it? We have to clean our houses, we have to earn a living, we have to walk the dog, we have to clean our teeth, we have to cook the food, we have to do the laundry. They're just part and parcel of our everyday adult life. So if it is a lump that you have to get over, find a way, but make it easier for yourselves, and don't overthink it, and don't think you have to be a chef. You just want to put a meal on a plate. The next one, and this was mentioned a few times, was spending too much money on food. But when I drilled down and asked them more questions, it was often, well, no, I've got my supermarket budget under control. I've got food at home. I'm just not eating it. We're just eating out. And when I asked more questions, people were saying, oh yeah, well, we've only eaten out a couple of times a week, which is brilliant if you've got the money and you're budgeting and it's in your budget and you have a specific eating out budget and you've got that money. It's all good. it's all good. But if that means you're not saving money, if that means you're blowing your budget, if that means you're really not paying down debt or amounting any savings, you can see where that money goes. And when I was talking to people, they were saying, well, it could be $45 for just 2 people to go out and have a pretty average meal. So we're looking at $90 a week. Oh my goodness, that certainly adds up into a huge amount of money that you could save. So be realistic about what you can afford. If you're in debt, you don't have spare money, should you be eating out at all? Oh, ouch. Yeah, I said it. Should you be eating out at all? I remember full well when we were in debt and paying off our debt, we didn't eat out unless we'd accumulated supermarket vouchers to go out and eat. Otherwise, we didn't go. And even now, because we live on a super tight budget and we want to save more than we spend, because we're 57, we're not 67, we are still earning some of our money, we're not completely living off pensions. So even now, we don't have in our budget a whole load of just free and easy spending money. So even now, we would say if we were going to go out and eat, it would be once a month. So be honest with yourself. Is eating out in your budget at all? You've got to be honest there, haven't you? I don't want to be the person to say to you, don't eat out. It's your money, it's your life, it's your budget, it's your choice. But ask yourself the question, are we eating our retirement? Are we eating our savings? Have we got food at home? Could we actually say, yeah, I've got a grumbly tummy and I'm feeling a bit hungry, but I'm 45 minutes from home, and when I get home I can just make myself a piece of toast to keep myself going whilst the dinner's cooking. So there's a big one. If it's breaking your budget, ask yourself, especially if you're eating out, can I afford this twice a week? Can I afford this once a week? Can I afford this once a month? If it's important to you and you've got the money, put a line in your budget that says eating out. And that's good. It's good. It's great. Hey, everyone likes to eat out. I like to eat out. But sorry, if you can't afford it, ask yourself this. Should we be doing this at all? The next one people brought up that they really struggle with is spending too much money on food from the supermarket. And then when I asked questions and I drilled down on this and I asked them more, I found out what they were doing was popping to the shops for a little bit of this and that, of that bits and pieces that they fancied. So they'd had their shopping list, they'd been to the store, they'd bought everything on the list, and then 2 days later they're back in the store buying more things. Okay, so I can see the problem there, and I'm sure you can too. Let's get everything on the list in the first place and keep it within the budget. If it's really important to you that you have ice cream or treats or anything like that, think about where that is going to fit into your budget. But, and it's like talking about the restaurants, if all of those things in there, those extra goodies, bottles of wine, cans of beer, chocolate biscuits, all of those things, if they are breaking your budget, if they are stopping you from saving, if spending that extra money is keeping you in debt, ask yourself again, is it so important that I eat these things or drink this wine or drink this beer or eat these big packets of crisps and chips? Or is it more important that I save some money, pay off my debt, save for my retirement? Ask yourself that. If it's so important that you do have these things, factor them in one shopping trip a month. Allow yourselves a few cookies a day, just a few, and say to yourself, right, I can have 3 a day. But keep asking yourself all the time, have I done a stock check of the food I've got? Have I put a meal plan together? Have I written a list for everything I need to buy in the supermarket? And then it's the hard bit, isn't it? It's the hard bit, the hard adult message we have to have with ourselves all the time. and say to ourselves as we're going through the door of the supermarket, I've got €75, I've got $75, I've got £75, or whatever nominal amount you've decided. You've got the calculator out on your phone, or you've got your pocket calculator of your handbag or out of your pocket. You're walking around, you're keeping a check on that. And when you reach your amount, you go, okay, probably need to go and put those cookies back. Probably need to go and put that bottle of wine back. Probably shouldn't really have bought 3 watermelons when 1 would do. And we have to have that conversation with ourselves. And I know it's hard. I know it's hard to discipline ourselves to say, how much money have I spent on my food budget this month? How much have I got left? I set myself this. I allow myself a specific amount per month. I do 3 shopping trips with that in the month, and I make sure I never spend more than a third of it in one go. So I've always got the next third for the next time I go and the final third for the final time I go. It's a hard message. I don't like to give it to you, but we all know we have to keep that supermarket spend under control. The next area that people had a real problem with and they were spending too much money on, and they knew that they shouldn't, they knew it was blowing their budget, were what I would call the bits and pieces, the nice little things for their house. And they were getting them sometimes from Poundland, the dollar store, from pretty cheap places, sometimes from charity shops and thrift stores, maybe from garage sales, from car boot sales. And they knew it was this little drip of money here and there. You know, $5 here, £5 there, €5 in the charity shop, and so on. And they knew, and they really knew that they were buying things that they just saw. They just went there and they just saw it. Now, this is another time I don't like to give people advice or those kind of bit of tough messages, but if you know every time that you are going to go into a charity shop, that you are going to buy something that you just think is just cute and nice, and you can convince yourself, wow, I really need that. Oh, I promise you, I can convince you I need things for my kitchen whenever I see them in a charity shop, and it would be so easy to take them home. Then you need to go to the charity shop with a list. And it might look like this. You might think to yourself, I could do with a new jacket. I could really do with a bigger bag to take with me when I go to the beach. I could do with an air fryer. And I'm really looking for some more cutlery. So when you've got that list and you can keep it in a little notebook, then when you're in the charity shop, you are actually only buying the things that you've pre-thought about, that you've planned for, and you can have all of that lovely experience of mooching around the charity shop, car boot sale, wherever, the lower price stores, anywhere that you like to go to and enjoy it without feeling the need to buy something, because you will know, and this is what we need to do. We need to be really sensible about this, and we need to frequently check our needs and wants. We need to look at, okay, my budget is small, I need to stick to it. I've been saving the money for an air fryer. I've been saving the money for a very large saucepan that I might see in a charity shop. I've been saving the money for a smart jacket that I can wear when I go out for a cup of tea with my friends, and so on. So having that in your mind before you go, and having a set amount of money that you are going to spend. So Mike and I were discussing the fact, and I've got the number here, for the entire year of February, our discretionary spending for the two of us for the entire February is €195. So anything that we want to buy that is off list. So I already know I need to buy some sewing machine needles. I need to get it from that amount of money. But it's knowing the amount of money that you've got that is your spending money and sticking to that. Obviously, we divide that into 2. We don't spend any more than a quarter of it in a period of time. We divide that amount by 3. We don't spend any money in the last week of the month. So we know that amount of money before we go anywhere. We know, look, we'll say to ourselves, well, let's just go to Emmaus because you and I could both do with. And I would say, I'm looking for some fabric from sewing. I was discussing with Mike, I have run out of green quilting fabric. I do not have a piece of green quilting fabric at all. So I know I would like to go at some stage in February, but I know my budget and I know how much I'm going to spend. I know I'm going to go to my little craft group. I know how much that's going to cost me. But knowing that before you go, allowing yourself your budget and what you need to buy will stop you from just frittering it away, because I can promise you we can always convince ourselves that there is something handy or something pretty or even something cute. We just need to remember we've got a budget and we've got a list. The next thing that people said they struggle with and they are probably spending too much money on were their gardens. Our gardens are an extension of our homes. We love our gardens, and I say this as an Englishwoman, our gardens are absolutely so important to us. They are as important to us as our living rooms and our kitchens. They are really, really important. And I have friends who love to garden too, and I know all of us, if we had a lot more money, would spend a lot of money on plants. So we have to be aware, and this is exactly the same as spending too much money in thrift stores or at car boot sales, because you can find plants everywhere. You can find plants at charity shops, car boot sales, flea markets, the market in the village, and at fundraising events. They're everywhere. And I can tell you, it is so easy that, 10 euros worth of plants have just slipped in my bag and they're coming home with me. So we have to be realistic and know this is a weakness. This is where I can just spend money and go crazy. So it's exactly the same as any other aspect of our budget. We need to decide, all of us, if we're gardeners, and I am a gardener, how much money we are going to set aside for plants a year. Now, we have a huge garden here. We have a 2.5 acre plot, and we set ourselves 300 euros a year to spend on plants. An average tree is about 30 euros. So you can see over the year, we can't spend that much. We know, for example, that the plants and shrubs come up in Lidl. They're usually around €7.50 each. And I buy around 10 of those a year, spending 75 euros. It's keeping a running total of that sinking fund or savings pot. Keep it somewhere. If you just know you're going to go and blow that budget, write it on a piece of paper and stick it on the door. Stick it on the door. I have 150 euros left to spend on plants. That's it. Take cash. Don't spend it in any other way. Take cash with you and say, okay, we went to a fundraising event at an open garden. We were told in advance they sell plants, they're really good and they're really cheap. And we took with ourselves 20 euros. We allowed ourselves that amount of money. But brace yourself, tell yourself, I'm going to have to be really good about this. I could spend thousands in the garden if I, one, had the budget, and two, wasn't sensible with my own money. I do have to be realistic and say, there's only so much money. That is all I can spend. Be realistic and enjoy the garden I've got, and just look after it. Spend money and time on looking after it, because within our garden, we know every single year from the lawn mowing season, we have to add into our budget the amount of money we have to spend on fuel for our lawn mowers, and it amounts throughout the growing season to 30 euros a month, which is on top, which is not our plant budget. It becomes our summer garden project. It can run away with you. Set yourself a budget. Tell yourself each time you go shopping how much you've got to spend or how much you allow yourselves, and keep a grip of that, because it can run away with you. common thread running through a lot of the behaviours of people who couldn't keep to a budget, who couldn't stick to an agreed amount of money to spend. And it was this, that they were buying things for the sake of buying them. They were buying books, they were buying clothes, they were buying craft materials, they were buying plants for the garden. They're not using them. They had clothes already that they didn't wear. They had books already that they didn't read. They had craft materials already that they weren't using. They'd got the plants from the garden centre that were still sitting in a pot, and they haven't even put them in the garden yet. They had the packets of seeds that they keep, they just go out of date, that they're buying beauty products, just sit in the cupboard. I think what we're talking about here are people who enjoy shopping. They enjoy spending. And this is a bit of a hard talk that they need to have with themselves. And I've had to have this conversation with myself in the past. And it's to ask the question, how am I feeling right now? Why am I buying this right now? What could I be doing instead of this right now? Am I just getting in the car and going to the shops because I can't think of anything else to do? Am I going out of the house and going to the shops because I don't like my house, because it's really untidy and I don't feel comfortable there? But when we've got that whole set of behaviour there, and I've had that behaviour in the past where I have bought things, I've stopped buying new fabric. And I don't buy new fabric because I've still got boxes of new fabric that I bought years ago, literally years ago. And I'm working my way through it and adding to it very affordable fabric from the charity shop. And I buy pillowcases and duvet covers and sheets very affordably. So I know that I enjoy shopping for the sake of shopping. I know I love to go to the charity shop and browse through those books. I also know I've got books I haven't read. So this is the advice that I give to people, and I'm one of those people who don't like to give advice. So I will share with you the advice I give to myself, and I'll share this with you. Before you think to yourself, I've got nothing to wear, go right through your clothes. Go through all the clothes you might have to throw out, things that doesn't fit you, that you don't like, all of those things. But in there, you will find clothes that you haven't worn, that you don't wear, that you could wear. Same with books, same with hobbies, with tools. I mean, you might be rebuilding something in your shed and keep thinking, oh, I need some new this or some new that. But ask yourself, am I shopping because I like shopping? Or am I shopping because I actually need this? Read your books, wear your clothes, do your crafts, engage in your hobbies. And whilst you're doing those, even if momentarily, it'll keep you out of the shops. There were many, many more categories that I could have gone into. People spending money on treating friends, treating their children, treating themselves. Spending money, I'm just looking here, on things like, gifts and all those aspects that could blow their budgets. So what do we need to do? We need to look at our budget and think, is it realistic? Do I actually have everything on the budget? Do I have savings setting up for things I want on my budget? Or do I have to be really realistic right now and say to myself, in a very adult way, that I may or may not enjoy, I can't have that at the moment. I can't spend money on going out. I can't spend money on treats. I have to spend money on the things that are important. Not a message that any of us want, is it? I don't want it, and I don't enjoy it at all. Do not think that I sit here day after day, living on a super tight budget, enjoying every moment of it. None of us do. We all have to sit there with that adult responsibility of doing the right thing with our money, doing the right thing and saving our money, doing the right thing and sticking to our food budget, doing the right thing and sticking to a gift budget, doing the right thing and sticking to the plant budget or the DIY budget. And yes, it's a bind, and yes, it means I keep running totals, and yes, it means I have to look at my budget before I go shopping. But we do have to do what we have to do. We do have to do the sensible things and the right things, and they're not always fun. So, did any of that resonate with you? Do you have your struggles with frugal living and budgeting or sticking to your budget? If you do struggle, you are not alone. What strategies do you use, or what strategies do you have that work for you, that help you to stay within your budget and keep to those frugal goals that you have? Everybody, I thank you so much for watching. We thank you so much for hitting that like button. We thank everybody who subscribes. And we do know that about 40% of you who watch all the time are not subscribers. So go on, hit the subscribe button and the little notification bell, and you won't miss any of our videos. We'll see you again soon. Bye for now.